Hello, Miss Jennifer and my boy Eric. How you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Good. I'm gonna keep my intro kind of simple because I just went on and on and on when it was our first attempt here. So here I go again. Anyway, so we're going to talk about how to deal with the bane of my existence, the extreme religious right and skeptics, closed-minded skeptics. I mean, I was an open-minded skeptic, but they can be so hurtful. Uh, my feeling is that unless they solicit information, forget about it. When the student is in need, the teacher appears or something like that, right?
Yes, absolutely. So as we started and you brought that up, my stomach, I got sick to my stomach. It's like, oh, their energy is just so difficult to deal with. But yes, you're absolutely right. For any of the real skeptics, the closed-minded skeptics,
Yes.
and the really, really religious.
Yeah.
Eric says, yeah, you're just best to just keep your mouth shut. You just keep your mouth shut because it's only going to bring you grief
Yeah.
and stress.
I know.
It's not going to, they're so far, he says, they're so far to the other extreme that you might as well be speaking a foreign language to
I know.
them that they don't understand.
I know. What is it? There's something they fear. What is it that's shutting them down?
So he said, yes, sometimes it can be fear, but what he says is that there's just such a disconnect between their reality and the fact that there is the spirit world and there's this whole other world that goes on. He said they just don't, that there's just no connection. It's like make believe. It's just like make believe to them. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes a person from the other side, he says, will choose to come in with that sort of a block because there is a lesson to be learned there.
Oh, what kind of?
Um, and and he says there is a percentage of those people, skeptics and very, very religious, who actually do kind of believe in this sort of stuff. Um, but sorry, he just made me laugh. He said, but they fear the devil. So
Oh.
yeah, so they like shut it down, and it's like that person that's really anti-gay and really against gay, and they themselves are gay and they just can't admit it. He says, so there are a percentage of the overly religious and the closed-minded skeptics who do it because they've had experiences themselves and they think it's the devil, and it scares them.
What
So
do you mean they've had paranormal experiences, like they've
yes.
seen a being, like one of their relatives,
Hmm.
or are
Yeah, or
they afraid that they might go to hell if they believe in?
mhm. Yes.
Okay, so the
Yep.
religious, they know that there's an after, they believe in an afterlife, and they think there's a hell and the devil and all that. Um, but why are they so opposed to channeling and the idea of of other lives, reincarnation?
Okay, so what Eric is saying about that is that, well, quite frankly, a big thing with the reincarnation is that that was kind of weaned out of religious beliefs so that people had the need to be good this lifetime because this is it, what
Oh,
you do here, because he says a lot of religions, when you go back and look, there was reincarnation centuries ago. They did believe in it, but it got weaned out
so
to
they can control,
control
yeah, control the masses, make them.
control the behavior.
Now, I
Yes.
can't remember, was that in the Council of Nicaea or the Council of Trent?
Uh, he says Nicaeum. I don't know anything about this personally, but when you said the Nicaeum, I got goosebumps.
No. Okay.
Um,
Well, why did
so
they remove mediums? Mediumship. I
yeah,
mean,
okay.
taboo anyway. I mean,
So
Jesus was a medium, so.
right. So the thing about that is a human thing. He says that happened because, oh, well, you don't know if it's a good spirit or a bad spirit, and so the fear is, he said, the fear was, and why it got out is, if somebody was talking to a medium, yes, the medium might know that they're only connecting to energies from the love and the light, but the sitter, so to speak, has no way of knowing.
But they might not be too. You never know. I mean,
Yes.
maybe
Well,
connected
correct.
in dark.
Yeah. So again, it was to control and to put fear in that. Well, you don't know who you're talking to, so you just better not do it at all.
All right. So how would that control uh, people uh, for the those in power? How would it help those in power? Would they just being nice and saying, "Well, we don't want you to be hurt by evil spirits"?
Well, to get the spiritual connection, you would have to go to church.
Oh, and pay up a little money. You can't
Yes.
go through mediums and talk to
Yes.
guides or Jesus or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep. You have to go to the church. That's the only place you know that it can be safe and okay.
Yeah, boy, people have been indoctrinated. So,
Well,
uh, but
and
people like,
so what Erik was just saying is, quite frankly, religion does serve its purpose.
oh
It,
yeah,
it, it does, it has a purpose. But many people have found more comfort through mediumship and through connecting to the other side and through that spiritual connection that maybe they couldn't find in church. So for those people, maybe church isn't the best thing for them when this is. And it's he says ideally it's different ways to get to the same place.
yeah. No, I remember him saying that it's a comfortable, well-blazed path for some, and it does, you know, impart morals, teach morals and ethics, and there's the sense of community and the humanitarian aspects of churches. So absolutely not. I mean, we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, he's sorry, he's making me laugh because he said he said quite frankly, sometimes the masses do need to be controlled.
Yeah, well, yeah. The,
you
I
know,
mean,
if we're,
we civilized the barbarians, the various religions over time, but they were barbaric sometimes too. The Spanish Inquisition, the Crusades, the Jihad.
yes,
So,
yep.
but one thing that is kind of weird is that I've gotten so many ugly comments about do you think you're interviewing Jesus? Why would he talk to you? He would only talk to the Pope, things like that. And
That's
of course, obviously they don't know Jesus, right?
it. Exactly. That's absolutely asinine to think that that is how Jesus would be up there. Like, oh, I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you. I mean, yeah, what was the point of Jesus coming here,
I know.
um if that's what it was going to be. Oh no, he's only going to talk to the Pope. No. Erik's like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, but I think they think, well, there's only so many people he can, communicate with. But that's not true because all spirits, Jesus included, can split their consciousness, infinite degrees, and be there in infinite places at once, helping infinite number of people at once.
Yeah. Well, that would be the equivalent of saying that, on Sundays during Mass, Jesus is only present at like 50% of the churches who are praying in his name. I mean, and nobody who follows Jesus' beliefs would believe that. So,
Right. I remember one of our mediums who doesn't channel for us anymore. She was a Catholic, and when they found out that she was doing mediumship, she'd been with this church, her family, for like 30 years. They took her into the office and said, "You're out of here, man."
yeah.
What about
Yeah.
the inclusivity?
What was that?
What about the inclusivity that that you're supposed to embrace everyone in love as per Jesus' teachings?
That has gotten lost. Erik says that got lost decades and decades ago.
Oh, too bad. Why?
Well, that really is the human aspect of it. Is it's like we live in a society, and so when you go to a church, this is an even more kind of defined society by the rules that you will follow and the things that you will do and how you will dress and how you will talk. And it's gotten control, from the humans at the top, and it trickled down. That's what power clouds things. It clouds things for people. Yes, the idea has gotten lost
Yeah, corrupt.
decades and decades ago. Yes,
Power corrupts,
it does.
and humans, especially those in power, tend to need to categorize and sort and label, and that means some are accepted, some are not.
Yeah, and you know what he's saying is humans by nature have their own opinions on what is right and what is wrong.
Right.
So when you have people in power, you are subject to their opinions. And over, centuries, opinions become solid in
Well,
that type of setting.
yeah. Will organized religion ever change? Or will it just disappear and everybody just into what we're doing, spirituality?
It no, what he's saying is that it's never gonna it's always gonna exist here. It's always gonna exist here. It does adapt and change, and it has.
Yeah.
This is just one of those areas that you have to look at it in a snapshot, like from 100 years apart. That's when you see the changes. If you look at it year to year, you won't see changes in organized religion very easily. You'll have to go 25, 30, 40, 50 years to see some changes. Yes, it is going to start to change some, not all religions, where there is more inclusivity, like you were talking about, because what Erik is saying is at the end of the day, the dollar signs count. The bottom line matters.
Yeah, I think
And
they're losing a lot of congressional,
yes,
yeah, permission.
yep.
Yeah. So, 200 years from, I mean, look, it's so much better now. We don't have the Salem witch hunt and the Spanish
Yes,
Inquisition,
yes.
all that. What about 200 years from now? What will Christianity, let's do that one, look like?
So what Erik is showing me is that there's going to be in that period of time a lot more like spin-offs, so to speak, a lot more sort of newer, not religions, but that are based, we'll speak about Christianity specifically, where people are taking ideas from the Catholic Church or the Baptist Church and kind of starting their own churches, these smaller churches kind of popping up,
Okay.
places that I get, like non-denominational, I guess you could say
Oh, yeah.
non-denominational. He said there's going to be a lot more of that kind of stuff.
Kind of like the Unitarian Church?
Yes, a lot more of this kind of stuff where there's a mix of the spiritual with the Christian teachings, and more inclusivity, more openness. But it's going to be, well, he says there's not going to be one like big one that would like necessarily compete like with the Catholic Church. It's
Right.
going to be a bunch of little, which is, he said this better because like doing it like that, you can't get as much power.
Oh.
So it makes them be a bit more honest.
Yeah.
Um,
And people have more to choose from also.
yeah.
Will they ever embrace mediumship, and the idea of reincarnation?
Okay. So what Erik said is that as far as like the Catholic religion and many Christian religions, Catholic specifically, they already do, but it's done behind closed doors.
Oh, well, when will they do so openly?
Uh, over the next 15 to 20 years, it will become more open. But the problem is that it like opens up a little bit and then it closes down. I guess this probably goes, yeah, depending on the Pope.
Yeah, who the Pope is, yeah.
Who the Pope is, it's going to kind of teeter totter back and forth, is what he's saying. But he says behind closed doors, they do believe it.
Oh, wow. Well, what about
Yeah.
like Catholic, like Lutheranism, or the Protestants? Do they? I mean, will they? I don't even know. Do they embrace mediumship and the notion of other lives?
Uh, Erik says with the mediumship, it's a little bit more rigid there.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little bit more rigid there than even the Catholic Church is.
Because they want to be the voice of
Yes.
God.
Yeah, it's more rigid there. So he says no, that it'll take decades for that.
Okay.
But for the most part, it may never openly be um, discussed. The Catholic religion has, words for this: the gift of knowledge, the discernment of spirit.
Wow.
These are things that the Catholic Church believe in that encompass mediumship.
Okay, but they say it in a kind of a
Yes.
way.
Yes.
All right. So, do you think that? I mean, it's wonderful to have someone teach uh, morality. And do you think children t- should I have taken you guys to church? You little hellions. No, should we encourage parents to take their children to church? Maybe a specific kind of church, or what? In order to instill morals, because they never listen to us.
um well, so what he's saying is that it does have its place for people. So if you're compelled to do that, if you feel drawn to do that, then yes. But sometimes going to church can make you feel even more isolated and more excluded. If you have a gay child and you're taking them to church and then they're hearing this kind of stuff. So it depends. He says no, it's not an absolute yes for everybody. um Everybody should have some sort of faith, some sort of hope, something to believe in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have something to believe in, yes, try going to 50 different types of churches and see if there's something that speaks to you. Because he says everybody needs something. Sometimes that thing is a religion, an organized religion. But he says it's more if you're drawn to do it, or if your kids are wanting to do it, drawn to do it.
Okay.
Um, it can be a good thing.
Yeah, just listen to your intuition, or have them listen to theirs.
Mhm.
So would it be? Is there like a spiritual church, or is that pretty much Unitarianism?
The Unitarianism, but of course that's not going to be right for everybody.
Yeah, they
Some
might want to go into Buddhism, and
Yes.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Okay, that's good. So,
yep.
how do you handle attacks from extremely judgmental, closed-minded religious people who, attack what we and people in our group do?
He, he says the best thing to do is ignore them.
Yeah, I just fight it with
Don't
love. Just fight it with love.
yep, don't respond. Don't He says even to respond in love is going to perpetuate, like if you actually respond in some kind of loving way, it's going to perpetuate the negativity. Because okay, so when you're talking about an extremist, which is what we're talking about here, we're talking about kind of the extreme end. um Extremists, no matter what they're extreme about, have other issues going on. Okay. What he's saying is that usually there's some sort of addiction issue, some sort of an issue with control, um, some sort of issue with obsessive compulsive disorder and behavior. um, and we're talking about the absolute extremes, where there's no flexion at all.
Right.
So he says if you can remember it like that, he says you're basically going to try to argue with somebody where you probably make better progress banging your head against the wall. It's just not worth it. It's not worth your time and energy.
Now,
Um,
it's hard to resist for some people, because we always want to be right and make other people wrong, and that's what they're doing. So the worst thing we can do is do the exact same. But what if you're talking face to face with them and they're attacking you? Oh, I heard you do this or that. I would just walk away. You got to say something. It seems awkward.
yeah. Well, I have a personal experience here that I'm going to share.
God.
Um, I was out. I live in the South. For those of you who don't know, I live in the South, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Um, I
God.
was out at a store one day, at a beauty supply store, and I would happen to be talking to the cashier and one of the other customers about what I do. And so we were talking about that, and another woman, I could see her in my peripheral vision. I could see she was paying attention, and She came and she stood very, very close to me, and I could hear her speaking under her breath. And I just looked at her and I said, "Are you praying over me?" And she said, "Yes, I am." And she tried to put her hands on me. And the other um, customer jumped in and she was like, "You leave her alone." And I never said anything else. I let this woman take over. I never yelled at the woman. The only thing I said to her was, "Are you praying over me?"
No.
And I just walked away.
But if
And
somebody had not intervened, would you have said anything?
I probably would have just been like, "All right, thank you. I appreciate it," and just would have left. That's me though. I don't have the need to make
No.
people understand and get it. I just look at it and say, "How sad for you that you don't believe
Yeah.
in this stuff." And I feel bad for them. It took me a long time to get there, to do that. And I hid for a long time what I could do in my beliefs. And Erik says that's an option for people, is, for some people who are afraid of that, you just keep it to yourself or only share it with your group of people that you're comfortable with. But he said for like somebody like you, who is out there in the public and in the public eye, he says for you, one of the big reasons that you have trouble sometimes walking away is that mama bear energy
No,
takes
I
over.
know.
He says you feel as though they are insulting me directly.
Right.
And so for you, he's like, I understand why you do it, but it just causes grief on you. Just, you know,
Because
I
it's
feel,
in the and people like you to handle this on their own. But if somebody comes up to me on the street and starts attacking me verbally,
tase him, he said. Just, he said, tase him. Get a taser and tase him.
we got one. That's so funny, Erik. Gosh, no, really. What do? You can't be condescending and said, "Oh, I feel so sad for you. You're so unconscious. I hope that you awaken one day." No, what do you really do?
Um, he said, situation by situation. If somebody's aggressive and in your face,
Right?
you may want to just, say, "I feel threatened. I feel,
Yes.
you're in my space," something like this, to make sure that you're protected and you have your protection. If somebody's screaming and yelling at you, really, he says, just walk away. They're not going to hear anything you say anyways.
But what about
Um,
if they're just not screaming and going ballistic, but they're
just
showing disdain and critical? Just say, "Well, I respect your."
Yeah, I mean, really, he said just the best thing to do is just not even engage.
Yeah.
Just, I respect your opinion. Have a nice day.
Yeah. There we
And
go. That's it.
that's it. That's it. You just, the more you engage, the more it spirals, he said.
Right. Right.
And,
All right. Let's
and
talk about
go
the.
ahead.
Go ahead. No, you no no no.
Well, and what he's saying is that if somebody is coming up to you like this anyways, they're confrontational. So the more you give them, he said, there is a chance that this spins into a physical altercation.
Yeah.
So
No.
you just want to be careful to avoid something like that. If somebody's brave enough to come up and call you out right to your face, who knows what they would do.
So
Yeah.
what do you do about family members? Because some who believe in this kind of thing, they're alienated by family, by siblings,
Yes.
parents, uncles, aunts.
Yeah. So in a situation like that, when it's family, and if you're still seeing your family, if because sometimes this gets to the point, he says, where people have to just, it's like, nope, family I can't deal with, I don't talk to, I've disconnected from. But he said, if you're going to still be around the family, he said, sometimes you have to respect that that's not a topic of conversation that you can have with them.
Right.
And you just don't
No.
discuss it.
But how do you heal wounds that are already there that have been from previous discussions, even though you don't plan to discuss anymore? I mean, the tension is there. It's kind of awkward.
Yeah, it can be weird. It can, um well, he says, sometimes you just carry some of those wounds with you.
Yeah.
We're you know, it'd be great if we came into a life and could heal every wound we ever had, but we don't. Some of them we die with. And so depending on the severity of what the family situation was, maybe some of those wounds harden over a bit but aren't fully gone, and then that's just part of the human life.
Well, is there anything that one can say to at least halfway repair the relationship? Like, look, I know that we had a disagreement. We disagree about this, that, and the other thing. I don't want that to hinder our relationship. So maybe we could just agree never to discuss
Yes.
that anymore.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And then you're kind of he said that what that does is that lets you let go of the control of it, and then it depends on how the other person responds back to you.
Okay, that's good. All right, let's talk about, oh, go ahead.
No, we're good.
All right. Now let's go to the non-religious, not everybody who's a closed-minded skeptic is so because of religion.
Yes.
Now, we talked about how some are because they fear, they don't want to go to hell, they've had paranormal experiences. Is there anything else you want to say about that, Erik?
No.
And do we handle them pretty much the same way?
Yeah, the skeptics who maybe are more like atheists, or don't believe in anything. When you die you're dead, that's it. He said, yeah, you do handle them basically the same way. um he said a lot more those type of skeptics, um like what you'll hear more is that you're taking advantage of people, you're lying,
Oh,
they
yeah.
get like that group tends to be more like, oh, you're charlatans, you're feeding on people for whatever reason. He's saying that group tends to be more of that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
any of the anger that typically comes from them is about that, about being fake, being phony, lying.
And usually people project. Usually if they are blaming you, criticizing you for doing that, that's probably
Yes.
something that they would actually do.
Yes, and this is where you'll also, as a psychic or medium in this industry, this group of people will also want you to prove yourself to them.
Right.
Well, tell me what's in my left hand, or what this kind of stuff, because they want clear cut, absolute proof.
So I'll tell you what's up your asshole. You're freaking up. Okay? I was
Yeah.
wrong, wasn't I? Anyway,
Yes.
the corn
Yeah.
cob. Whatever. So why are some atheists, why do they get so angry at us? Are they like, how feel sorry for your victims? How dare you? I'm here to protect
No,
them.
actually, what Erik is saying is that that's not what it is. It's not that they feel sorry for our victims and stuff. What it is, a lot of times, is a jealousy. Um, that the comfort that it gives people to believe in this stuff, they just don't understand. There's anger there. So he's saying a lot of times in this area, um, there really is a lot of fear about death, about the afterlife. There's and this comfort that they're missing, that they have no way of getting, really, because if they don't believe in the spirit world at all, there's no religion that they're going to feel comfort in. So it's a very scary place to be, and he says it tends to make them lash out.
Oh, I can imagine. It must be awful. So
Yeah.
why do people become atheists? For example, why was my father such a militant atheist?
Yeah, that is, um well, in particular with your father, that was part of the chart. That was part of
Okay, yeah.
the soul's chart. So you came in, and by nurture were this way, by your upbringing, but by nature you were always going to come to the spiritual side. That
Well,
was just your nature.
I was never an atheist. I was, after some of the beatings, I would lay down in bed as a 6-year-old or so and say, God, I'm going to give you one more chance to prove yourself. If you
Yeah.
can't, then you are dead to me.
Okay, so more, what is that? More like agnostic, like you're not sure.
It was pretty much that most of my life.
Okay.
What about usual generic I think he was betrayed by the Catholic Church. My great uncle was Cardinal of Spain, and I think that he was disappointed in Catholicism, and also he was sent to a boarding school. His parents were in the hallway and said, "We'll be right back," and they didn't come back until
They didn't
months.
come back. Yeah. The even with the having the religious upbringing, your father really didn't have. There wasn't a strong belief that anything existed, even from a young age. It was a block for him. And Erik says that's how it has to be. When people don't believe in anything of the spirit world or God or Jesus or he said it's such a firm block that they create. And what he actually just said about that is that when that's the choice, the life path, there's actually a spirit guide that comes in and makes sure that block kind of remains there. So even though this is your belief, you still have your spirit guides and stuff, but it has to be that way. It's a very difficult life to experience without any belief in the spiritual or the afterlife. It's very difficult to do that. Very difficult.
Oh my God. I know when I was called on the phone to my dad crying, Eric's dead, he said, "Sorry, Lisa, he's going to turn to dust." That's what he said. That's awful.
I mean, life is hard enough anyways. Could you imagine having no faith in anything after this? Like, what would be the point? What would be the point?
What would be the point of living?
Yeah, there wouldn't be.
So what do other atheists, why do they, if it's not, a spiritual contract, why do they become atheists?
Okay, so the very scientific minded will lean towards this. Again, proof. There needs to be proof. Now, he's what Erik says is not to say that if there wasn't some sort of proof, they wouldn't change their beliefs.
Yeah.
But us in the spiritual world know that oftentimes that proof, what we call proof, is quite subtle.
Yeah.
So,
but the scientists, it has to be
concrete.
Material science anyway. You have to be able to perceive it with one of your senses or measure it with an instrument. So, yeah.
Yeah. So the very scientifically minded will lean towards that. He said that's, but he said, that doesn't always mean that they'll be like aggressive in saying no, none of it exists. It's like, well, if I can't see it, if I can't prove it, if I can't measure it, then how do I know it exists?
Now, why is there a divide between conservatism and liberalism? It seems like conservatives, they tend to be involved in religion, some to an extreme degree, unfortunately, the religious right. But in liberalism, there's a higher percentage of atheism. Why is that? Or, is it? First of all, let's ask, is that true?
Yeah, actually, he says yes. There is some truth to that, and quite frankly, what he's saying is it does have to do with the brain function, right and left brain.
Oh, yeah. I think the left has a more developed right brain. Right? Is it right brain?
I can't remember either.
They're able to deliver messages emotionally much better than conservatives do. Conservatives tend to be very
black and white.
We're generalizing.
Yes, generalizing, but very black and white, very right and wrong, very.
Yeah, and use more logic than heart.
Yes, very that scientific mind, that mathematical mind.
It seemed like that would make them more, I don't know. Maybe it's because conservatism had roots in, our forefathers who were Puritans and stuff, and so religion sort of was in that, and they made you conservative because you had to follow the rules, blah blah blah.
Yes.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no. There is some like I can't. He's trying to give me some fancy word, and I'm like, Erik, I don't know what you're saying. But there is some truth to that throughout time. We still have traits and characteristics that have come from centuries ago.
That's true.
We're not that disconnected from our ancestors.
That's true.
Uh, and so, yes, there is some truth to what you're saying. And of course, this is like,
I didn't
you
even know
know,
what it said. It made no sense to me. God.
no, it did. No, if you listen to it back, it makes sense. It does make sense, but it's, as with anything, it's not all or nothing. So it's not all conservatives, not all liberals. He said there's, a mix of everything, everybody and all beliefs in both areas. But yes, there is that more spiritual towards the liberal, the more, conservative religious towards that
Organized.
side.
Yeah. All right.
Hmm.
But uh, atheism in liberal circles, we say, or you are saying, is more prominent in
Yeah.
the left. And maybe part of that is because of academia, professors, they're like scientists. They want proof and all that. Could that be part of it? And if
Yep.
there's no
Yep.
proof, then okay. They
Absolutely.
are
It's
like
absolutely
they're like
part of it.
scientists. Yeah. Anything
Well,
else?
and then what happens is, like, you have a group of people who it has you have a group of people who believe something,
Yeah.
and then they start talking about it, and then other people come along who have similar beliefs, or similar political views, and so then you get kind of convinced that yeah, this is how we evolve as a society. Yeah.
I mean, that's in other words, students in
Yeah.
academia are
Hmm.
influenced by their professors. I mean, they're in a position of authority, and if they are like academic, scientists and need proof, just like any scientist would, then of course that makes them have a propensity to be an atheist. But then on the other side, a lot of liberals also embrace things like Buddhism and
Yes.
alternate Eastern religions. So
Yes.
it's very complicated.
Yes.
Whereas
Absolutely.
conservatives are pretty much either, well, I don't know, they seem to be the mainstream organized religious types. But
Yeah, and what Eric was saying when you were talking about that is that, if we're speaking within the United States, because
oh yeah, of course,
plenty of places where the college education and stuff isn't feasible for everybody, but he says, now so many more people can get higher education. So it's why there's like this big divide. 200 years
oh,
ago, not everybody in the United States was getting extended education. Now, a big percentage of people are. So it's why there's such a big split between liberals and conservatives.
oh my God, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's like, wow, what an epiphany. Is okay, so how do you handle an atheist that's, not the comments on YouTube, but somebody who's in your face saying, how, I don't believe, you're just going to turn to dust. This is bullshit. Prove it to me and things like that. What do you do with that?
You, Eric says, he's funny. Said the best thing you can say to them is say, "I'll meet you on the other side then, and we'll have this conversation over there."
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
One question. Madeline O'Hare, the uh, famous atheist throughout history. Um, what was that, a contract? A
Yeah.
spiritual?
Oh, absolutely.
Ooh, what was she meant to teach the world or learn for herself?
Uh, well, Eric says almost always with that kind of contract,
Yeah.
um, you come in to have like extra struggle and extra challenges because there's no hope. There's nothing. Like, how sad is it to think that you're living your life in those moments when things are not going well, which we all have,
Yeah.
when things are a struggle? Like, what is the motivation to stay?
Yeah.
It's very difficult, very, very difficult. Um,
Poor thing.
yeah, but also to be kind of in the limelight,
Yeah.
um, in the forefront, to sort of, I don't know, bring this to light, and for others to follow.
Yeah. Wow. So,
um,
in my father's case, I think he wanted somebody to look down on. And so I'm an atheist. You guys are being brainwashed. But
yes.
also, he was really afraid to die. And that's another thing. I mean, he
Yes.
feared immortality. I mean, mortality. He essentially said toward the end, I should be immortal. I can't die. It's ridiculous. And so he used me as a scapegoat, even though I was the one that helped him all through his life.
Yeah.
That's why he treated me the way he did at the end. He was angry at me for believing something he could not believe in.
Yes. Yes. It's a there is anger.
Yeah.
That is part of what is to be learned, is that anger and that jealousy. And see, somewhere in his subconscious, that comment of him saying, I should be immortal, that was somewhere in his subconscious where his subconscious knew he would be. Because it doesn't matter
Oh,
what you believe here, you get to go there.
wow. And then when he crossed over the other side, I pretty much channeled him and said, "Hey, so what do you think now?" Well, I'm a little bit right because it's not a real like a God that sits in a chair. I said, "I never believed in that, Dad." And
Yeah.
Jamie, oh my God, he's really kind of a dick.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway,
Condescending for
hi,
sure.
Dad. I do forgive you. I really do. So, anything else you want to share, Eric, on this subject?
Um, yeah, well, he just says, regardless of what you believe here, you do get to cross to the other side. And then when you get there, you're like, oh, yeah, right. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
because you were there before you got here. Um,
I mean,
so
you may
yeah,
be darkness for a while, but then you're like, oh my God,
yeah,
where's my dog? Or why am I thinking? I shouldn't be thinking. I'm dead. And
yeah,
ask for help, and help arrives.
yes, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. He just says, I love you.
I love you too. Love you, Jennifer. You guys check her out at psychicmediumjenniferdoran.com and join us at my home in an upcoming event in October. All right. Bye bye.
Bye, guys. Love you.
Love you too.